Hey guys, welcome back to World End Economica. And we've just had to stand up on Chris. I didn't like doing it. Oh, hey there now. Reply came quickly. I'll be waiting. Have you eaten? I was about to reply, but I hadn't eaten, but it felt like it would look bad if I was expecting her to prepare something right from the start. Thinking a bit, I wrote, shall I bring something? The reply was short. But a hamburger from the Golden Arches. But I spread around the world farther than any religion, if you would. Well, that's an interesting way of saying it. I wonder if I actually used the proper name. Some people said the hamburger chain from the United States was a statement of a cultural invasion. But it wasn't strange to buy from them. It was a hassle-free and the flavour was fine. I felt out of place carrying those bags, their distinctive trademark blaring for everyone to see into a Royal Central Hotel, and I saw a porter cringe a little when we came to carry my baggage. I got onto what seemed to be an exclusive elevator and went up to the 50th floor. The sky was but a sliver of an angry red from final moments of the evening. The darkness of space and the graduation from a dense ocean blue into indigo were quite beautiful. The view must have been much more splendid for our long headquarters, and I wouldn't have been surprised if there were just people willing to commit to a bit of work I'm doing just to obtain that view. I rang the bell for room 5002 as I thought that. Good evening. Good evening. My apologies asking you to run such an odd errand. You just wanted a non-trademark burger from the Golden Arches, which are non-copyrighted and are not clearly reminiscent of any kind of real modern business whatsoever, do you? I noticed, didn't you? Not at all. It's been a while, so I figured I'd get myself some too. She smiled and moved back from the door and opened it. The room was the same as always, but she seemed to put some effort into cleaning as there was now a path. Technically, the dining room was over there, so over there. The use of technically concerned me, but as I traversed through the mountains of documents on a constructed pathway, I understood. Yeah, it is technically a dining room. I see, technically. Normally one would be able to dine with the overlooking the 100 million more skyline of Newton City on the 50th floor, but right here the long table was covered in piles of books and documents. Taking into account to used it as storage space, the way it was piled was awful too. It was impossible to take it with chairs. The only seats available were two facing each other, and the head chair making three. I'm going to stop there a second. Look at that picture. You wouldn't think they were financial books, would you? You'd just think they were just general storybooks. Aghast, I placed a hamburger bag on the open table space, and Eleanor brought in a teapot. I bought drinks. Ah no. This is before I start choking. Huh? Carbonation. Does it not become a problem? I looked intently at Eleanor's nervously smiling faces. What is it with anime characters and carbonation? Do they not have carbonated drinks as they're growing up as kids in Japan? Is carbonation really such a big problem? She probably had a problem with it before. Imagining that happening, she seemed a little bit silly and cute. First, I always have lukewarm tea ready. Where are knives and forks? Ma, you certainly are a bit mean. Though she was implying I'd taken a jab at a noble descent, I was actually rather serious. Especially considering the tea set she put out just in case she choked on her 8 more combo meal. Looked like it cost 2 or 3 digits more. Then let us eat. When Eleanor spoke those words, I took out a hamburger in this very unbefitting location and unwrapped it. Nom. I'm sorry. That picture there. First of all, that's going to be the thumbnail. You've seen that picture before, I know. I may even use that picture for the outro, actually. Because that's just bliss in a burger. That wasn't an onomatopoeia. Eleanor actually said that out loud as she bit into it. That makes her even cuter. I couldn't tell if she was because Eleanor's face was small or the hamburger was large, but it almost looked like she was being eaten by the hamburger. You expected placid gaiety of It all made it feel like this was not a good time to talk. She ate for a while, about half a hamburger was gone before she took a small break. Really, when you haven't had one for a while, it's quite delicious. Saying that, she wiped the mustard and ketchup from her mouth. She gave a pleased sigh. Normally it's like what we had the other night. Oh no, cereals, nuts and such. You don't seem to have a very praiseworthy diet. It always became a delay for my work, so they do prepare quite a bit for me when I'm acting as Susie Wu, however. Why not room service? I tried it a few times, but having to focus on each and every time became a hassle. Like needing to eat with a knife and fork? That's correct. Like needing to eat with a knife and fork. She laughed, biting into a hamburger. But if that's the case, I think you'd be up to your ears with fast food. And yet you said you haven't had any in a while. Yes, that's correct. I tried not to eat it normally. Opa, the Goth would be angry. She drank a soda, slightly embarrassed as she corrected herself. Because you'll gain weight? I'm told I should gain on this one. That's true. And I was a bit too slender. I responded curtly as I took a fry, hoping my answer if so good a situation wasn't misunderstood. Also, if I were to eat such hamburgers, it would be difficult to burn it all, and I wouldn't be able to continue working. I suggest more exercise. Well, she said that, took a deep fry, and elegantly dipped it into some ketchup and bit down. Watching her dainty movements, it made it feel like I was watching a ballet. So you finished working today and you're calling it a wrap with a burger? Why, yes. She said that, biting in her hamburger, taking some fries, and drinking a soda. Watching this lesser noble dinner scene did leave me feeling a little uncomfortable. No, it wasn't with hamburgers and nobles don't match. It was Eleanor's expression. About Avalon, you'd gotten your hopes up for nothing. When I said that, Eleanor's hand paused for a second. But she soon picked up a fry and munched down upon it. Not at all. It's always like that with corporate investigations, especially for those you have preconceptions about. She tilted her head slightly, as if cringing, suggesting that it really did happen often. It hasn't made me lose heart that much, but... She abruptly added onto what she said. Certainly I'm not saying I was without expectations. That's not it at all. No need for pleasantries. No, honestly. Saying that, Eleanor's expression became dreary. When I looked at Eleanor, she looked up and forced herself to smile. Is it a medicine again? It was enough to make her drift off to sleep, with conversation in the cafe downstairs. But it just didn't seem like that, and Eleanor shook her head without a voice smile, let out a deep sigh and stretched out. It's of no matter now. She then said, I had asked about be observed from you, however. Huh? This isn't meant to be a compensation for those efforts, but as a token of my gratitude. I spoke out before thinking, interrupting Eleanor. May I? She looked at me with a partially eaten hamburger in her hand, and smiled with a sombre smile of a little girl in a portrait. Yes, please, go ahead. So she then ate her hamburger, almost as if she was compelled to do so. Did something happen? I had to ask. Giving up on something because as assumption had fallen through? What Eleanor was doing wasn't like that. Eleanor didn't stop. I added on. At work, no investment bank. She paused, looking at me with the eyes that seemed almost afraid. I talked to a bank about it. About what it meant tossing aside 100 million more handling fee. And also the kind of position analysts are in. I don't think I can be of much help, but I can at least listen. That's as much as I'd said just then. She put down a hamburger and smiled. Thank you. I'm grateful for your concern. Honestly. She took a deep breath and poured some lukewarm tea from a kettle. I was well aware this would eventually happen. The cup gave off new steam, but Eleanor took it with both hands, as if to warm it up from it. About an analyst's workload and investment bank profit reciprocity? Upon being asked that, I nodded, my heart racing. A bit. It is expected. She smiled a bit, drinking her tea. Something had been wetted, making it fairly hard to even remember eating a hamburger. I was after Avalon's approval. Huh? There's a large-scale bond issuance. Corporate bonds, that is. Platinum Smith had been slow in the upstart, so definitely wanted those proposals. Thus I'd certainly want Avalon to remember them. Avalon. All throughout, I refused to evaluate Avalon. The pressure had been there for quite a while. However, Harold Brough was already appointed, hence there was no opening for me to squeeze into. They hadn't been too hard on me for that, though. Why was so suddenly? No, I knew. Commission. It was always about money. What's the scale of those corporate bonds? About 20 billion. Looked at Eleanor, opening my mouth like a fish gasping for air. 20 billion. 20 billion? So it seems they will enter a waterworks next, utilising the moon's gravity to gather water from Newton City and dispense it. That type of distribution. Both collection and pressurisation require electricity. This compliment well. Such a nonsensical claim. But the waterways are emerald industries. Exactly. This is a great leap towards realising their company creed. No longer a dwarf chasing off a giant, but being shoulder to shoulder with giants. They really could grant seize control of a moon. Eleanor said that with stole a glance at the hamburger. It had gone cold and was certainly grotesque and difficult to see as food. That which was held of the archetype of industry or food industry, produced by the highest of capitalism. You can never be certain of the assurance of 20 billion corporate bonds works out. It's uncharted territory. However, if they do pull it off, the main handler will be able to pull in a frightening amount of commission. Even at 3%, it's 600 million. Of course, they'll certainly use multiple investment banks, and the amount will decrease though. And that's why Platinum Smith had a chance. Certainly. Our bank is a larger proprietor after all. Eleanor said that brazenly, taking a fry, but staring at it coldly she put it back. Also, the trading division made record-breaking profits by boss operations officer had been placed in a difficult situation. Susie Wu is certainly an attractive advertisement beacon, but cannot compete with a trading division. Eleanor was selective in her jobs too. This is probably how things looked at from the inside. You might get fired? No, that'd be... She cringed and spoke. That certainly won't happen. I still have utility value. Utility value. I clenched my fist when she talked about herself as if she were an object. However, because of that, there was little something today. She turned and sighed, turning her gaze out towards the skyline. I certainly do not believe I can succeed in this line of work. Yet I can get answers if I take the abuse head on. That's the kind of work this is. Masculine, gruff, with nearly no women, cigars rolled up sleeves. And with spirits of their sacred relics, skirts, cinnamon and aspirin, just can't compete. She looked like a schoolgirl ducking into her shoulders and cheerfully explaining something about scary things which happened at school. That wasn't the case. Because the vast sums that they're affected, and their movement could easily change people's lives. Besides, I have no means to evaluate Avalon. She lifted her head quickly and spoke. This isn't a guess or presumption. Even if it wasn't my current situation, it would be the same. It's because Avalon released data for analysts. Did I not give some to you to Haru? Yeah. They were listed this way profitable, and that was profitable. There were no explanations of their corporation. Yes, also a voice conference, which analysts were gathered, didn't allow any questioning of the employees. Just listening to their report and writing it down. If he didn't, then he'd lose various commissions, and no work would be passed your way. Other analysts aren't doing this on a whim, as I am. Home loans, children's education, living expenses. They must earn this within the whirlwind of an industry. They cannot go against Avalon. Powerless. The word floated into my mind as I watched Eleanor slump down, her elbows on the table and her forehead resting on top of her hand. I said before I won't be fired, but there's a chance. She didn't answer my question. Saying there was no chance in the sector would just be impossible. To continue on as Susie Wu, I must face Avalon. But if I were to give out another rating, it could only be a positive one. Could my fix allow that? She opened her eyes with her forehead still in her hand. Something cold at the table. It was the face of one cornered and suffering. I am well aware it's impossible for me to completely have my way. But even still, if Avalon were truly a fraud, vast numbers would buy their stocks from my report. Even if I were to find proof of their wrongdoings afterwards, would I be able to proclaim it so boldly? Out of good intentions, she couldn't go on so unknowingly. Knowing may appear suspicious, but having it forced upon her, she had to. Eleanor, having been deceived by Iceman, and having a company bearing her family name, crushed mercilessly and brought up, couldn't allow such a thing. If I were to do that, I would be the same as Iceman. She completely drooped down. She might have been crying. I didn't think I could even imagine such mortification. I was incredibly disappointed by the results of the data Raina had sent. Additionally, I was sorry. She was probably very hopeful. That noose had gradually tightened around her neck. It could have been a clue to finally cut through it and let her down. Of course she was hopeful. My shamefulness and regret pained me. The silence of this dining room was fitting for its use as a storage room. It didn't even allow for breathing. Eleanor raised her head suddenly, sniffing a bit, wiping the corners from her eyes and wrists, and smiled resolutely. It was my grand dream. Eleanor spoke. I responded involuntarily. Was it enough? Of course it wasn't. She screamed. This wasn't because I had some sort of proposal. I remained silent, saying nothing. My apologies, but enough. Both a grand dream and a partially eaten hamburger. While they were hot, there was nothing sweeter. But if they became cold, they were disgusting. Even looking at them caused discord. It's enough. If Avalon truly is a fortunate company, then that will certainly come out eventually. The longer it takes, the higher they will be. Iceman as well. So I'll just watch their freefall. That's enough for me. She wasn't seriously saying that. She was just forcing herself to say that to comfort herself, disregarding how painful it was to her. That sounds like she was blaming me. Again, I wasn't able to help someone. I've done all I could as well. Lifting her face, which looked tired but somewhat relieved, Ella looked around and spoke. Did all I could. Then there was silence. A person who trashed her hotel room to this degree said they'd done all they could. Those words couldn't ring truer. But what made my heart ache was Eleanor's face wasn't that of someone who'd given her all. It was the face of someone blaming themselves for crumbling to her knees and accomplishing nothing. That's right. Eleanor was not blaming anyone. Eleanor was truly blaming herself for making these irrevocable blunders. I still can't say that word. Looking at Eleanor like this, it felt like my right hand was cramping. 4 years ago, that black-haired girl who continued to blame herself reached out to me. But I had brushed it off. If I could turn back the clock, I don't think I'd ever brush it away. Never brush it away again. I think I knew what was most important then. If so, what should I have been doing? If I were to reclaim even a fraction of what I had 4 years ago, what could I do? No. No, what, Haru? No, you're going to have to wait until next episode. Bye-bye.